Hello there! It's still July, so you know what that means. It's still Gungan month. And in today's video, we're going to be looking at the Gungan species. So we'll be looking at things like biology, society, culture, kind of what makes a Gungan a Gungan. Gungans were a sentient amphibious humanoid species native to the planet of Naboo. Born as tadpoles, they very quickly developed limbs, which, as they grew older, became very strong, which allowed them to live underwater in the lakes of Naboo. They had a large lung capacity, which meant that they were able to hold their breath for long periods of time. Their skeletal structure was extremely flexible, as it was made from cartilage rather than bone. Their long faces were an adaptation which allowed them to burrow and find food underground. Some Gungans, like roost tarpals, my favourite Gungan, had whiskers on their bills, which were a sign of maturity among Gungans. They were equipped with long muscular tongues, which allowed them to scoop mollusks and lesser amphibians from the Naboo swamps. The average height of a Gungan was about 2 meters tall. They only had a lifespan of about 65 years, which unfortunately means when we see Jar Jar in Aftermath Life Debt, he only has a few more years left to live until he reaches the average life expectancy of a Gungan. There are two races of Gungans, the Ottala and the Ankara. The Ottala are the race that we're all a bit more familiar with. Skinny, long bodies, long halu or ears as we would probably call them. That's what Jar Jar Binks is. The other type of Gungans, the Ankara, is what Boss Nass is. Shorter bills, a bit more stocky, and a larger body frame. The Ottala are far more common on Naboo and in the galaxy as a whole. In fact, the Ankara are very rare within the galaxy, although the Ankara are older in terms of galactic history than the Ottala. Gunganese, or Old Gungan, was the native language of the Gungans. In practice, the Gungans often used a pidgin version of Galactic Basic, with Gunganese words and speech patterns. Although the galaxy as a whole stereotyped the Gungans as using this pidgin Basic, some Gungans, like Aro Nakukala, spoke perfect Basic. Gungans primarily live in underwater cities on Naboo, in gigantic bubble-like structures, just like we see in the capital city of the Gungans, Otoh. These globes are known as hydrostatic bubbles and have a special membrane that keeps water out and allows entry through specific portal zones. Naboo is fortunate enough to grow low-cap plants in the planet's porous bedrock that actually collect plasma in the buds located at the tip of the plant's stalk. The Gungans were able to harvest this plasma and use it as an energy source. Because of the uniqueness of the Gungan cities, after defeating the Trade Federation, Otoh became a popular tourist destination, especially for honeymooners. We now move on to Gungans at wartime, because after all, it wouldn't be Star Wars if there weren't any wars. Many different groups used non-sentient creatures to aid them in battle. For example, the Twi'leks used their blurgs, Obi-Wan Kenobi used Boga, the Varactile, and the Tusken Raiders used Banthas. Similarly, the Gungans used their fair share of creatures from Naboo to aid them in battle. We see 3 different creatures used during the Battle of Naboo in The Phantom Menace. They are the Kardu, the Fambar, and the Falumpa set. The Kardu were bipedal reptavian creatures. They were ridden on by some members of the Gungan Grand Army, much like knights may have ridden on horses back in the Middle Ages. Fambars were large quadrupedal amphibious creatures that could be found on the planets of Naboo and Onderon. During the fight on the Great Grass Plains during the Battle of Naboo, they were used to carry deflector shield generators on their backs. Falumpa sets were large mammals which were quadrupedal and found on the planets of Naboo and Onderon again. They were domesticated by the Gungans and during the Battle of Naboo were used to transport heavy loads such as shield generators around the battlefield. The Otoh Defence League was the primary manufacturer of Gungan weaponry. They produced the Atlatl, the Boomer, the Falumpa set catapult, an energy shield, and the Cesta. Boomers were grenade-like energy weapons. They came in different sizes and could be thrown by hand, sling, Atlatl, Cesta, or a Falumpa set towed catapult. The Cesta was a wooden staff, while the Atlatl was a one-handed Gungan throwing device consisting of a short stick of non-conductive hardwood with a cradle in one of its ends, which could have a boomer inserted into it, and the boomer could be thrown. Alternatively, it could just be used as a blunt weapon. The Gungan personal energy shield was basically what it says it was, a handheld energy shield carried one-handed and was able to block blaster fire, physical weaponry, and even force lightning. The Phalumpacet-towed catapults were basically just catapults which fired boomers. The boomers fired by these catapults were the largest boomers we really see in the Phantom Menace. The Gungans used a whole host of other weaponry which wasn't produced by the Otogunga Defense League. They probably used blasters, and if any of them were Jedi, they probably used lightsabers, but they also used electro-poles, which are basically just poles with electricity on the end. They used deflector shields, which we see in the Battle of Naboo on the grassy plains. They also used plasma detonators, and they are the only species so far in canon to have used them. They were basically a brown disc with a glowing yellow circle in the centre, and they were mounted on each of the seats of the Gungan High Council, and they presumably acted as a form of defence in case the council was attacked, but we've never really seen them used. We just know that they're there. And finally, we move on to the history of the Gungans before the Phantom Menace. We don't really know that much about them, in fact, but we do know that on Naboo, many years before the Phantom Menace, there was another, more reptilian group of humanoids known as the Elders. This species were actually in conflict with the Gungans, but little is known about why the two sides were fighting. The Elders eventually died off, but their massive statues are still located in the Gungan Sacred Place, which is the place where Queen Amidala tries to negotiate with Boss Nass and is eventually successful. And that's basically it. That's really all you need to know about Gungan culture, society, Gungans at wartime. Let me know in the comments anything I've missed, or anything you really like about the Gungans, or anything you really don't like about the Gungans. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, remember to watch any of the other videos I've made. There's a great one in the bottom left right now, which YouTube has recommended for you, so it's probably quite good. You know, YouTube probably know what they're doing. At least I hope so. Thanks for watching. Bye!